Greetings, friends. We're coming up now on the fifth Sunday of Lent, and our readings have got to do with the raising of the dead, obviously in anticipation to Easter, with Jesus raising from the dead. Now, when you step back and think about this, wow, it's uncanny. It's something even macabre. I like the word macabre. It's like a French word. There's nothing that's in English that can really, that English word that works here. So we have to use a French one like déjà vu, whatever. But you get the idea that the macabre's got to do with the horrifying, the terrifying. I mean, see the dead itself, and then the dead when someone coming to life. Wow. That's frightful. Ezekiel is taken in the spirit. And this is not in our readings, right? So it's the background to our Ezekiel reading. And he is placed in a valley full of bones. The bones are probably from a battle, and warriors piled all up in the valley. He finds himself as a priest who's not even supposed to come into contact with the dead, crawling over mounds and mounds of bones. You can hear the dry skulls crack, and God confronts him with a question. Oh, son of man, can these bones live? Well, that's a hard question to ask, or to answer anyways, right? not one to ask, but to answer. He kind of worms his way out of it and says, well, Lord, only you know. God doesn't let him get away with that. And he said, I want you to prophesy to these bones. And say, oh, dry bones live. So he does. And what happens is bones are rattling as they are coming together. And then you have the skeletons, and then the sinews come, and then the muscles and the blood vessels and all that sort of thing. And finally the skin, a giant army of God. That is dramatic. It is high drama, and it's got the macabre to it. I mean, again, anything that has to do with the dead is terrifying. It's and the power of raising someone from the dead. It's scary. And I think that the Lazarus gospel is macabre in that same sort of way. Someone tells Jesus that Lazarus is ill. And so Jesus, instead of going right there like you'd expect, he waits around for a few days until he knows that Lazarus is dead. And so he tells his disciples, let's go. Let's go. We're going to see Lazarus, because Lazarus is sleeping. And the disciple says, well, if he's sleeping, well, that's a good thing. He'll be okay. And no, he says, no, Lazarus is dead. Now, this comes off as a really bad joke, okay? Really think about it. A very bad joke. And do you see what Thomas says? Well, good heavens, he's kind of like the Eeyore of the disciples. And he says, well, let's all go and die with him in Judah, because that was a dangerous place for Jesus and his disciples. Anyways, they go, and the story. How frightful it must have been. And I put myself in my imagination many times at the front of this tomb, saying, roll the stone back. This is macabre. Don't do this. He's been in there 4 days. But they did it. And then you can imagine Jesus saying, rise. And out, walks or hops, or I don't know how he did it, bound man who was dead to be alive. Wow. I don't know about you. I don't know if I would stay or run. Yeah, the power of God, the power of the resurrection, the uncanniness of death, and wow, these stories, raising the dead, But Jesus, in his conversation with Lazarus' sister, Martha and Mary, he identifies himself as the resurrection. We usually think of the resurrection as a future event, and it is. But Jesus identifies himself as the resurrection. Not only will he raise, but he will raise us. And if we're in union with Jesus, we're in union with the resurrection. We are in union with the power of the resurrection that resides within us. Think about that. That's huge. Okay. And it's all because Jesus took care of the real problem, and it's sin. Because sin brings death. In this culture, we have lost the connection between the two. And we have to be bold in our proclamation of what brings death. It's sin. And Jesus came to take care of the problem of sin. And by doing so, he has revealed himself by word and by deed as the resurrection. Praise God.